Anyone who watches my channel would know that I'm not a big fan of The Boys or Gen V, because I'm what people in the online community call a hater, or a... In general, I think that The Boys has essentially been surviving off the nostalgia of one good season of television and some very talented actors. But besides that, it's pretty much been on a steep decline to utter embarrassment. The most recent of these humiliations has been Gen V Season 2. A show with annoying characters, bad writing, bland storytelling, and pretty much any other negative descriptor you can think of. But let's get into all these reasons in more detail, shall we? Number 1. None of the powers make any sense. Now, when writing a story with superpowers, magic, or any other special abilities, it's important that the audience has some understanding of how these powers work and what their limits are. This gives the story a foundation that everyone can understand and helps the viewers not get confused. It also holds the writers to some form of accountability so that they can't pull some random shit out of nowhere and say it's all part of the story now. For example, in Avatar: The Last Airbender, we know which character is capable of certain types of bending. Toph is an earthbender, Katara is a waterbender, Zuko does fire, and so on. We are shown the heights and limitations of their power sets, and so we know what the characters are capable of, as well as what they're unable to do. And it's all properly defined by the writing. Gen V, on the other hand, does the opposite of this. Characters can do whatever the plot needs of them in that particular scene. Now I could sit here and give out examples for each character, but for now, I'll just use Sister Sage as my main example. Like everyone in this series, none of her powers are properly defined to begin with. We know that Sage is the smartest person on the planet, but beyond that, nothing is really explained. For example, throughout Season 2, Sage is able to predict future events with pretty much pinpoint accuracy. She can read people so well, in fact, that she doesn't even need to officially meet them in order to know what their next action is. As we see that she's able to anticipate Marie and her friends attempting to rescue Kate from Elmira, as well as Marie returning to face off against Cypher. Okay, so essentially she can see the future and knows everything that will happen due to some sort of calculation or whatever. But then why can't she predict what Godolkin will do? I mean, she knows every action Marie will take, so why does she fail to properly analyze a man she has an intimate relationship with? And don't try to tell me this is all part of her larger plan or whatever. If you believe that shit, then let's just say you would drink Kool-Aid if a murderous cult leader gave it to you. No matter how you try to spin it, Sage's abilities are what you could call inconsistent. I mean, does this face look like a woman in complete control or utter shock to you? All of this is to say that the lack of explanation and bad power scaling makes the show feel lazy. The characters can or can't do whatever the writers need for the plot to happen, and once you notice that pattern, it makes the show difficult to enjoy. Number 2. Comedy. Now, it's no secret that Eric Kripke and his lackeys like to push boundaries when it comes to comedic aspects of these shows, meaning that they like a lot of male sexual humor. Whether it's showing you a room full of dicks, a man shoving another man up his asshole, a man fucking a garden gnome, a full view of a man's cock and asshole, a burned dick and ass, you get the point. The basic formula of these so-called jokes is that there is some situation with a man, and the punchline is showing you his genitalia. Now, I'm no prude or anything. I can stand to see some male nudity if it's in good taste. Oh, that sounded wrong. My point is that these jokes are lazy. And if you don't find it funny the first time, then it's going to be painful to watch as the same bit is repeated in every episode. It also became apparent while watching Gen V Season 2 that this kind of humor is very one-sided. In fact, you never see a naked woman through the entirety of the show, or even in The Boys for that matter. When a woman is unclothed, however, it's always very polite, keeping the camera at her shoulder line, or they are quickly covered up by clothes or bed sheets. The show is very willing to humiliate one gender while preserving the decency of the other. You never see any tits is what I'm saying. One could even say that there's a bias in this show, which last I checked isn't very feministy, Eric, you misogynistic prick. Are you saying that only men can be the punchline for shock humor?
Wow.
And this brings me to my next point. Number 3, satire. Now, as I pointed out, Eric Kripke has a certain political bias. And by that I mean he hates right-wing politics. He's actually quite happy to talk about how much he despises the Orange Man and the people that support him. So Kripke uses this television show as a platform to spread his generalized contempt. Now, some people who enjoy Gen V as well as the boys will call this satire. They use this as a shield against any criticism of overly obvious and shallow political views. But I believe that people want more to chew on than the simple message of conservatives are bad, liberals are good. It's just a boring perspective, even if you generally agree with the sentiment. Audiences aren't stupid. We like to think about what we watch a lot of the time, and if you don't give us anything to chew on, it becomes simplistic and dull. Instead of doing a commentary on our world, the show just highlights the tiny bubble the creators live in. You can't just have Sister Sage saying,
Einstein was a racist,
and have everyone clap and cheer for you at your oh-so-edgy jab at this great historical figure. You just sound like an ass. And I'm not saying that conservatives or right-wing political groups aren't deserving of criticism. Of course they are. Every organization, political or otherwise, can be made fun of. But there is such a thing as good and bad satire, and Gen V is certainly the latter. But why have me explain it when we can have the late great Norm Macdonald tell us how it is?
If you do an impression of someone, you have to like that person, because you're playing the person and people like themselves. So you can't play someone and have contempt for them at the same time. It doesn't work as an impression.
Number 4, everybody sucks. The only really enjoyable character in this show is Cypher. Hamish Linklater is the only cast member with an ounce of charisma. I mean, the guy who played Polarity did a fine job, and so did Godolkin for the most part, but everyone else has about as much personality as a plank of wood that cries all the time. Seriously, can you tell me a single thing about the character of Jordan? Besides the fact that she is depressed, and doesn't like their parents due to gender issues, what could you really tell me about them?
Fuck it.
Okay, so let's go over some basic character questions here and see if we can come up with some answers. What is Jordan's goal throughout Season 2? I guess you could say it's to stop Cypher, but most of the time, they want to run away, or just give up. And it's not like Jordan is ever really leading the group in any plans or decision making. In fact, they are often forced into helping people, like when Marie tries to go off on her own. So I guess you could say it might be getting back together with Marie. But Jordan is constantly mad at Marie throughout the season and breaks up with her in the final episode. So that also doesn't seem like an overarching goal. And if your character doesn't have any goals, motivations, or active decision making in the story, then what's the point of them being there?
You cannot have a protagonist without desire. It doesn't make any sense. Any fucking sense.
And to top it all off, it's not like Jordan has a strong screen presence. Both the actors that play the character just walk around with mildly confused looks on their faces. Let's just freeze frame an image right here. Now, what do you think is happening in this scene? Would it surprise you to know that this is where Jordan is breaking up with Marie? A relationship which has been evolving for 2 seasons of this show. I mean, she looks like her McDonald's order was fucked up, not that she was rejecting someone she supposedly loved. And sure, I'm picking on this one character here, but you could say similar things about Marie, Emma, or Kate. Sure, they all cry a bit more, but that's hardly a personality trait. And in the end, it's difficult to get invested in a TV show where the only likable character is the villain.